So we've talked about our top 20 physical games, we've talked our top 20 eShop Switch games. They're both live over on the channel, go check them out after this video. But today, let's talk my top 10 disappointments. Now I do want to preface this, my definition of disappointing, it's a game that didn't meet my expectations or simply let me down. Basically what I'm trying to say here is, they're not necessarily bad games before we go getting all YouTube angry in the comments below. Overall, I'll say this, it's been a great year for the Switch, especially when it comes to what I wanted personally. So yeah, with that, hit like, leave a comment below, and remember to also hit that subscribe button. We get a ton of content out there just like this, so join the family. And again, let's get this started. Okay, so Wolfenstein Youngblood starts us off today, and it only just, I'll be honest, edged its way in. The way they did this one, I've got to say I loved it. Cheap retail price, a free code for a second player, and a fantastic port overall. The problem, the core game itself, for me, it was a total disappointment. As I say, not a huge amount of technical problems with this one. I'm kind of kicking things off a little bit soft here before we get into some real problematic titles. But I just couldn't get into this one overall compared to its bigger brother, Wolfenstein 2, and also having to follow that one up. It just wasn't the experience I was looking for or expecting. It was kind of more of like an open world looting format, if anything. The story then was lacking, and before I knew it, I was just running around the same environments over and over again. If you are going to go into this one, the only real enjoyment, at least for me, was the multiplayer aspect. It kind of made the tedious nature of it a little bit easier when you're kind of managing it with a friend. Not awful, totally works, just not what I expected or wanted from this particular game. Okay, so next up, Sonic and Mario Tokyo Olympics 2020, or whatever that full title is. I know I probably shouldn't have had high hopes for this one, honestly, let's face it. But still, after Mario Tennis Aces, awesome game, and then Mario Party, that one kind of, where's that gone? That one kind of sucked. I felt like we had a 50-50 chance here. Even if it wasn't a direct Nintendo title, I was mentally still kind of making that comparison. I probably shouldn't have. When is an Olympic game ever good? I gotta say though, what I did like at least here was the cast of characters. I'd say 50% of the involved minigames, and then the multiplayer aspect, local at least, was fun in short bursts. What I didn't like though was a pretty terrible story mode that just seemed to drag on and on. It took me like 15 minutes to get to the first damn race. Overly complicated instructions for what were relatively easy minigames. And then generally speaking, games that got old really quickly. I'm talking, 15 minutes with each and you will be done. On top of that as well, you're quitting out to the menus constantly to choose a new race or event type. When you go online, it takes like 10 minutes to get into any game and it lasts all of like 15 seconds. It's so frustrating. Now when I do go back, I tend to lean towards the kind of more retro inspired games, but technically speaking it does all work, they just forgot to add the fun for me. Okay, so next up we've got Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. First off, I want to say great game, actually awesome game in fact, but on release, this one for the Switch, it was a bit of a mess. As games go, this one definitely got my attention and a ton of it. Unfortunately not on the Switch though, I had to rely on my Xbox. Now on release, this Switch variation of Bloodstained, it was just plagued by constantly dropping frame rates like literally through the floor, awful graphics when compared to its counterparts, and it could definitely handle it for the most part, it just wasn't optimized for the console well at all. And then even issues with crashing that would kick people out. Funnily enough, this was also the best-selling version too, so they really let themselves down here. But I will say at least the developers, they did release a patch for this one, and for the most part things are now better. I even actually picked up a copy myself a few weeks back, but it was still disappointing first time around when I waited an extra week because it for some reason pushed back on the Switch for a week after everyone else, only to be let down. Okay, so next up, Damon X Machinae, a game I was super looking forward to, and then I played the demo. First impressions were that of pretty much boredom. It wasn't particularly bad, nor was it particularly exciting though. The more I played though, I noticed technical issues as well, like a seriously struggling frame rate. What the developers did do right with this one though, they got feedback from that demo, implemented it from a gameplay and frame rate perspective, And then they even released a trailer concerning the fixes so they could inform us all. I've got to say, that's really, really cool, and I respect that a lot. Unfortunately, what they didn't fix was the fact that, all in all, this was a pretty mediocre and repetitive experience that couldn't be saved by a few technical additions. Good try, but not the game I was looking for. Like I said, next up, not particularly a bad game, but Dragon Ball World Heroes, a game that should have been so good in my opinion, but it kind of fell flat for me, unfortunately. The Dragon Ball IP, awesome. I just didn't really get this game, honestly. When I played it, it was a borrowed copy off a friend, and I'm so happy for that. Essentially, what we get here is a few repetitive mini games in between Dragon Ball based card games. I'm okay with that, but $60 physical for this is just kind of insane. It all worked, it just lacked any real depth for me, and my biggest problem, in my opinion, they're price gouging hardcore fans here, and that honestly sucks. I'm not okay with that at all. For this one, I wouldn't pay any more than $25 at the most, and even then, to be honest, there's still better out there. Just look at Slay the Spire, for example. Okay, so now we've got the Bradwell Conspiracy. This was high on my list of games to be excited for in 2019, and for some time actually, as soon as I heard about it. First up, the concept: you work for an organization at the forefront of technology. You're about to announce an initiative that could change the world. Next thing you know, you awake in rubble. The Bradwell facility is just falling down around you. Was it an accident or a purposeful attack? That's where we step in, and what is a great setup turns into boredom and disappointment. This one, it should have been amazing for the first-person puzzle genre, but the story just fell flat for me, failing to live up to that setup I've just went through. The game struggled technically, both visually and with the frame rate dropping quite consistently. And then the core gameplay, the puzzles, they're simplistic, especially when you compare it to others in the genre. If you want to see this done right, go and take a look at the Talos Principle. That's an awesome game. So next up, another game I was actually looking forward to. I don't know why, looking back on it, but Among the Sleep. It was a simple concept, honestly. Play as a toddler and work your way through increasingly creepy settings in a first-person viewpoint. I liked the idea, but I probably should have read reviews from its PC counterpart, which actually released now a few years back. This one is just incredibly slow. The scares, they're pretty much non-existent. The controls are really unresponsive. You know, it tries to embody the toddler's speed, but it just results in kind of clunky controls that just feel pretty awful. And then the story, it's decent enough, but there's truly nothing exciting for the player to actually do. It just felt like I was walking from one moment to the next just to hear that next part of the tale. They forgot to add gameplay. That's the big thing here. For me, the gameplay just kind of sucked. Okay, so first off with this next one, I'm going to say this great game. Mutant, Road to Eden. This one's a turn-based tactical role-playing game with an awesome story, a cool cast of characters, and I'd say generally a very rewarding formula and experience. So if you are a fan of this genre, I'd say immediately go and get it, just not the Switch version. On release, we had crashes and gameplay bugs. Now, credit where credit is due, they did patch this and they fixed it for the most part. Unfortunately though, what they didn't fix was that graphically, this one is terrible. I want to say I don't think graphics mean all that much, but here it actually directly impacted the gameplay. Docked, first of all, it's a blurry mess with pop-in, text so small you can barely read it. Making out objects on screen was often impossible. I was trying to translate what that blurred mess was I was looking at. That's actually pretty important when you need to pick things up. And then handheld, let's not even get started on that. I genuinely had to check with someone to make sure it wasn't my eyes. The handheld is near unplayable. Great game, absolutely awful port. Okay, so Contra Road Cop is a game I didn't really expect a lot from, which is why it doesn't actually take the #1 spot today. But isn't that kind of sad when you think about it? A Contra game I wasn't super excited for. Even if there was, I will say, a little bit of hope at the back of my brain. This one, it deserved like a passionate return to form. It should have reminded everyone of why this series has been so loved for so many years. Instead, what we get is a mess of a game that I can barely attach to the Contra series. I'm not even sure why they put the name outside of selling a few more copies, honestly. They basically stick the Contra name here on a mediocre twin stick shooter and call it a day. Terrible performance, terrible gameplay, and a dumbass story gives me very little to tell you that I actually like about this one. I liked pretty much nothing. Avoid this one at all costs. This is one of the few games on today's list that would also make my worst games of the year, as well as disappointments. Okay, so last up, in at number 1, for me, the most disappointing game this year was, of course, the one I was personally looking forward to the most. And that one, it's Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes. Yeah, I know I've had some games that were simply broken today. I've had much worse games on this list as well, just like a Contra, But for me, this was the biggest disappointment of them all. I would still though go out and buy it if I knew this information beforehand. I'm just a huge fan of the series, disappointment or not, I've got to play it still. Suda51, the developer, is a genius, there's no doubt about it. Killer 7, Shadow of the Damned, Lollipop Chainsaw, No More Heroes. Some of the most batshit crazy experiences you can have on their respective consoles at the time. But this one, following up from the masterpiece that is No More Heroes 2, it really dropped the ball. Visually, I'll give them this, they hit the Suda51 trademark craziness, but the gameplay switch to a top-down viewpoint here felt just dull and repetitive. The story was good, but implemented with these awful overlong text-based sections. And then I even had a few crashes along the way that would kick me out of the game entirely and make me repeat huge sections. Thank God we will be getting a true sequel in the coming year in No More Heroes 3. I just wish this one had held me over better until then, and the best thing I can take away from this one is I guess the sales were good enough that we're now getting a true sequel, and I'm okay with that. And that's it, my 10 biggest disappointments for 2019. What do you think of my choices here today? What was your most disappointing experience this year? Let me know in the comments below. Hit subscribe, join the family, hit that like if you agree with any of my choices today, and I'll see you all on the next Gaming X.